Welcome to Yellow Table Talk, a podcast for women professionals interested in climate change. No climate experience necessary. My name is Michelle Lee, and I'm the co-founder of Women in Climate. My background is in software sales, and I've worked for some of the biggest companies in Silicon Valley and pivoted into climate in 2021. Together with my co-founder Tiffany Turner, we have created one of the largest virtual and in-person communities for women interested in climate change, with over 7,000 members in our Slack channel and active members across Asia, Middle East, Africa, North America, South America, and Europe. Head over to our website to learn more, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hello, everyone. Today I am here with Tiffany Turner, tech worker turned personal coach who is from California, but now based in Austin, Texas. Welcome to Yellow Table Talk, Tiffany.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. So we like to open with what beverage we're having at the Yellow Table today. So Tiffany, what are you enjoying?
I am having a cappuccino. It is unclear if it's a basic or a classic, but no alternative milks. Very, very clean.
Nice. Okay, that's great. A little caffeine hit for our podcast recording. I am enjoying the remnants of my morning coffee that was a French press. And then after that, I'll be enjoying some delicious clean water.
Same.
Nice. So a little bit of context. Tiffany and I know each other from years ago. I think we met around 2013. So it's been over 10 years. And I remember we met at a LinkedIn networking event and we were both looking for jobs and we became friends ever since. And a lot has changed. I'm not working in tech anymore. Neither are you. And you moved to Austin and you have a family. And these days I get to see Tiffany when I make a stop at South by Southwest. Thank you, South by Southwest, for being in Austin. But I can't believe we've known each other for over 10 years.
I know. And we've known each other since 2011, friend.
What? No.
Yes, because you helped carry my engagement ring to my now husband in 2013. And I don't think that you asked someone that you just met to do that, you know?
Good point. And that is something that I did do. So I will always carry that with me. Not the ring, just the story.
It is a good story.
It is a good story.
Well, it is nice having you down here in Austin from time to time. Mm-hmm. I will say, I'm like so glad to have moved out of tech and get to be in this work that's more aligned with what matters to me and my passion. And I would guess you feel the same way. I mean, who doesn't love working in climate, right?
I mean, depends on the day and there's a lot to unpack there. So let's get to it. Tiffany, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So like Michelle said, the first part of my career was in startup tech, and I worked for these small and medium startups in Silicon Valley. What feels relevant to share based on what we're going to look at today is that all my leadership at these companies were men in their 40s and 50s, and that really shaped a very narrow vision of what success looks like for me. Because I was young and I was 23, and what do you do when you're like out of college and 23? You like work your butt off to be successful, right? So I was just doing everything that I could to think like, act like, engage like these men that were modeling success and leadership for me. And over time, that caused a tremendous amount of inner turmoil. And in 2016, I hit my own rock bottom and I hired my first life and career coach. I basically got to a place where I said, I can no longer tolerate what I'm putting myself through, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how to move out of this. And working with that coach for a year, it was life-changing. I got to see all these areas where I was deeply out of integrity with myself and my values and what actually matters to me. So about a year later, I quit tech. And the day after I quit my job, I flew to San Diego and I started a 1-year-long coach training program. It was focused in ontological coaching, which is what I do now. Yeah, I had to handle my scandal. as we say in coaching, I had a lot of healing work to do. I had a lot of relationships to repair, and I had to look in the mirror in ways that I really didn't want to, but I wouldn't take it back. So doing all that allowed me to open my own coaching practice, and now I get to have, in a lot of ways, a dream life. I'm really, really happy with where I am.
What a journey. And that's a new saying that I am adding to my repertoire, handle my scandal. Very, very catchy. And like you were really an early adopter of personal coaching because I feel like it has become a little bit more prevalent in, I would say, like for me in the last 5 years, like I've been seeing it more on social media, on LinkedIn. But back in 2016, like it was not something that people typically spent their money on. So I commend you for being an early adopter and then really understanding that this is something that you're passionate about and what you wanted to do. Well, tell us a little bit about what a life coach or what a personal coach does. And, I think sometimes we think about therapy and we kind of put it in that bucket, but there are differences. So walk us through that.
Yeah, it's such a good question. Thank you for asking because I think it's common and under discussed. The overall is that therapy is a medical model. People who are therapists, they are educated, trained, and skilled at diagnosing people. And so, inside of a therapeutic conversation, a lot of times you're operating with a context of a deficit, like something is wrong or needs to be changed. And it's often a past based conversation. So, what happened in your childhood that has you be how you are today? What needs to heal from your childhood to heal where you are today? This is distinctly different from coaching in that coaches have no credentialing and no authority to be diagnosing. It's just not a diagnosing conversation. And in coaching, we really relate to clients as where they're supposed to be on their journey. Like if you told me in 2016, T, you seem really unhappy. You seem like you really need to make some changes. If I wasn't ready to hear it, I didn't want to be told I was broken. I just needed to be held in the space that I was at, the journey that I was on. And so in coaching, we really coach people based on where they're at and where they want to move towards. So it's a future-based conversation. And we relate to people as whole and complete. There's no deficit. It's like, you choose this, you create this. That's why you are where you are. If you want some change, let's look at what you want to create. Let's look at where you want to move towards. In coaching, once we have a clear, distinguished gap between where someone is and where the client wants to move towards, then that's where like my best skills come in, right? The listening, being able to really distinguish people's limiting belief systems, patterns of behavior, self-sabotage. And I show up and I reflect that stuff to clients so that they can get out of their way and create the thing that they want.
Love that. Past based versus future looking and deficit versus you are already whole and complete. And I think personally, I also have a coach, thanks to Tiffany, who referred me. And I've been working with her for probably, I want to say like 2 to 3 years now. And it does make all the difference. And I'm really glad that I invested that in myself. And I think a lot of the times when we think about getting ahead in our career, we'll do this degree, that degree, an MBA, a master's of XYZ.
Totally.
But this personal coaching can also be a really important tool because I think a lot of things that we learn at school are important, but we kind of inherently know and we learn on the job as well. But sometimes it's our limiting beliefs that are preventing us from moving forward. So something to consider as well in your journey, your career, to have this type of coaching and support. So thank you for sharing that, Tiffany. Now, you work with a lot of professionals and probably, I don't want to assume, but you probably work with a lot of women. And as Women in Climate is a women's professional network, I was curious, through your lens, what would you say are the top 2 things that women professionals struggle with most? And can you share some tips on tackling them?
Yeah, there's a part of me that's like, I want to know what you're hearing too. Compare notes here. But if it's okay, I'm just going to share one thing because I think it's really, really big and very fully encompassing. The thing that I see women struggle with most is authenticity. And my take on this, like not the truth about the world, but my take is that for all of history, men have held the most senior positions, and that's been that's been created in such a way that we have a really masculine definition of success. So consider that it's really only in the last 20 years, which isn't even one generation, that we've been seeing the rise of female leadership. And because women have been so heavily conditioned to believe that success looks like how men do it, I see a lot of women self-abandoning. I see them lose sight of their personal values. I see them give up these beautiful traits that are like more inherent and natural towards women and female leadership so as to appease and fit inside of a mold, right? And so I think it's really common, women in their late 30s, early 40s, sometimes all the way up into 50, that they come to some sort of come to Jesus moment of like, I'm not in integrity with myself. I'm not living authentically. Something's not right here, right? And I think that they realize, oh, I've been trading what really matters for me. I've been abandoning my values. I've been abandoning some part of myself that's true and real and important to do it this way that I've been conditioned and trained to do it. So over time, doing that, self-abandoning, not being authentic with self and others, that builds tremendous inner conflict, and that has negative mental, emotional, and physical impacts, right? Volleying back real quick, like, do you see some of this in the communities that you're connected to, Michelle?
I definitely resonate with the models that we have been given and that we see because we are under the leadership of a lot of males. And, I think in many ways, we try to emulate that to receive the same type of success. I just think it's really hard in the workplace if there's a certain tone, pace, and if that's not in alignment with you, to then be able to still succeed and, reach your goals without losing that authenticity.
Yeah. Yeah. I see that too. That's a huge theme that I see. So yeah, do you want to hear some of the things that I would recommend for peeps that are experiencing this?
100%.
Yeah. Okay. So I got 3 things for you, ladies. If this is resonant and you're like, wow, this is 100% me. The first thing that I would suggest is do an annual values assessment. Honestly, you can use ChatGPT for this. Like, have them generate a set of prompts that has you assess your values. And the reason why we do this annually is that we go through different stages of life. What was important to me at 23 is really different from now in my mid 30s. And I expect that to change once my kids are not so dependent on me. Like, I've got 2 really little kids. They need a lot from me. So they're a really big focus right now. But in 5 years, in 10 years, that's not going to be the case. And if I don't slow down enough to do a check-in and see, wow, what's really the most important this year? What are my highest priorities? What are my highest values? If I don't slow down enough to do that, then you end up on an autopilot, and that you're going to like grow out of that value system without having invested the time to be intentional and really make sure that you're in alignment. So do it every year. The second thing that I have is build relationships with other women who are actively engaged in personal development. And I cannot stress how important this is. Whenever you feel like you have to be cautious of the language that you're using or the concepts that you're sharing about because you fear that you're going to be judged for them, then that's totally a sign that you're not being held and celebrated in your journey of developing yourself. So look, I've got friends that they're not into the work that I do, and that's fine. It's mostly my high school friends. So if you're listening, sorry, high school friends, that's you. But they already know. Anyways, if they don't want to hear it, they're not going to support you, right? If they're triggered by it, they're not going to support you. Don't go to those people to be supported around your journey. Build a community that is going to hold you up, that's going to talk the talk with you, that's going to mirror back to you, right? And I think that women who are equally drawn to personal development, leaning on each other, allows you to have these reliable human resources to lean on when you need to work through conflict or when you need help processing certain circumstances from the new lens of life that you're trying to live. So I cannot emphasize building a community of women who are actively engaged in personal development. Do it, do it, do it. And then the last, if you can't hire a coach, no one can call you out on your BS better than a coach. It's literally not your therapist's job. It's not your partner's job. It's not your friend's job. It's not your mom's job. If you have the financial resources, invest in yourself, get a coach. It's always short term and it has a lifelong impact. It's worth it. Just do it.
I love that. And the values exercise had me thinking, T, this is kind of funny. Like, what if you sat down and was really authentic to yourself and your values actually don't align with being the next VP or getting a raise or getting promoted and was more aligned to spending quality time with your family, being in nature. And then you just realize, actually, I don't want to be in a leadership role where I have to be toxic and I'm just at peace with that. Like, whoa.
100%. I get those clients all the time, right? They're high earning, they're under immense stress, and all of a sudden they realize if I want to make more money, I have to be more stressed than this. I don't think I can stretch myself. I don't think I can be more stretched than this. And so then we have to have some pretty authentic conversations about money. Like, what's your relationship with money like that keeps you trapped in this cycle? Like, and no judgment. If you want to keep doing it and you tell me, Tiffany, I want to be the VP, I don't care what it takes. Me being stressed out, that doesn't matter to me. Then I'll support you in that. I actually don't care what you want. I care about you being clear, empowered, and then supporting you in getting whatever that thing is. But yeah, you got to do that values assessment to, if you want to live authentically. Frankly, as women, if we want to empower and channel our feminine energy and like bring that forward and hold it up with reverence, men and women pair really well together because we have uniquely different qualities. And I love seeing female leadership that really is saturated and committed to the feminine qualities of their leadership, right? It's important
Yeah.
for the balance.
I'm adding to my sort of end of the year calendar to do this values assessment because even I haven't really taken the time to do that, and that might change what I do and how I go about doing it. So definitely really helpful. And I also want to comment on the second piece that you touched on, which is have a circle of friends who are dedicated to personal development. I have to say, after going through coaching myself, like I've developed this entirely new vocabulary. Like I find myself saying things like, let's hold space for X, Y, and Z, you know? Like,
Yes.
or, oh, this person is very relational. You know, I feel safe around XYZ person. And it has really changed my life. And, you know, I am gravitating towards people who I do feel safe around, who I can be authentically myself and know that they have done some work to, you know, regulate themselves emotionally and not take things personally and be curious and reflect back to me. Like, yeah, your coach can be your mirror, call it your BS, but, you know, your friends can also be a mirror to you as well. And I think people who have done personal development can do so in a kind way.
Totally. Totally. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Well, specifically to climate, Tiffany, one of the topics that come up, you know, in this women's professional network is that, you know, our community is so passionate about climate. And a lot of people are in jobs where they're not necessarily working on climate yet, but they're really passionate. They want to do more. And I have conversations repeatedly with folks in our community, you know, around quitting their job so that they can find a job in climate. And I personally, over time, have developed a pretty strong opinion and stance on this, but I'm curious to hear yours first.
Yeah, definitely. Let me start with it makes sense, right? The climate is demanding our attention every day, every year. The demand from humans to pay more attention becomes more urgent. And it makes sense to me that anybody who has even a sliver of care for the environment and for climate impact can get drawn into the urgency of that, but also that human nature is to seek out novelty. And so if you've never worked in climate and climate advocacy is important to you to some degree, then I really understand why people would quickly make that choice. And I guess what I would offer here is that each of us has our own unique flavor of BS, and that BS is going to follow you wherever you go, including a full-time job in climate, right? So if you're somebody who's deeply craving leaving your job, I'd actually encourage you to assess if the vision of working in climate, like whatever this vision is that you have, like, oh, I'm going to quit my job, I'm going to go work in climate. Is that vision fantasy, fear, or intuition based? And let me break it down a little bit further. When I talk about a fear based vision, the experience that you would have in your body is that your thoughts are really, really fast and they're very rigid. It feels very all or nothing. There's usually urgency and maybe even some danger. Like, if this doesn't get done immediately, there are going to be consequences. I need to act now. Those consequences are often magnified when we're in that mindset of fear-based thinking. So, look, if you're somebody who's been feeling drawn to climate, you're trying to decide, do I want to abandon everything and go to climate? Maybe. And can you check in with yourself? Are you in fear as you're deciding that, as you're choosing that? On the other end of the spectrum, we've got our fantasy people, right? And those are the folks that their mind is like really buzzing, right? It's like kind of this nervous, adrenalized buzz of like, oh, what if this? What if that? What if this? What if that? Fantasy is actually really seductive. So it is this part of you that doesn't feel connected at all to negative consequences. It doesn't even feel connected to the work that would have to be done. All you see is the shiny prize. And so some people might be having this experience of, oh man, I want to quit my job and I want to go into climate full time. Are you in fantasy? Are you connected to what it's going to take? Are you looking at what your BS is in your current job and how that will follow you into a job in climate? Are you still going to be fully satisfied in climate even with all that BS there with you? So for my fantasy folks, you got to do a little bit of self-assessment, right? And then for my fear-based folks, I think those folks need to do a little bit of system regulation, because the chaos in your system when you're in fear is extremely upregulated. It just feels chaotic energy in your body. So the third lane here is intuition, and that's something that most people don't have a lot of practice with, but everyone can train and practice in that. So from intuition, your body feels settled, your mind isn't racing. You may have feelings present, but they're from a place of calm and not from a place of panic. So, I'm all for people making change. I would just invite listeners to make them intentionally and with a heavy dose of real talk and self-awareness about both the positive and negative consequences of the career change that they're seeking.
Thanks for that. Fear, fantasy, and intuition. And this part of us about seeking novelty, I think that's a big thing. Like, it's going to be completely different butterflies and unicorns when we are doing something that we feel very passionate about on a daily basis. Like, if I can spend 8 hours a day working on climate rather than, doing XYZ, what I'm doing right now, like, that would be just the dream. And there always are some type of consequences, positive and negative, but sometimes we're just focused on this positive. Like, if this, then everything else will be solved. If I get climate job, then I will be happy in life. But it very rarely is that way. And in the beginning, when I was kind of forming a thought on people switching into climate jobs, like, obviously, I think it's fantastic that more climate jobs are coming up. I think it's a really good sign to the market that sustainability is here to stay, that there is, economic value in addition to just value to nature and to our planet. But I also think that if you're really passionate about sustainability, staying in a workplace that is not necessarily a climate company can be really impactful, because you can influence your company, your fellow employees in a way that if you're at a climate company, you're kind of preaching to the choir. So for those people who now hold positions in a, let's say, like, non-climate company, you have a really incredible opportunity, and it'll take patience, it'll take time, but don't lose hope and don't despair. And additionally, now my personal thoughts, and again, these are my thoughts, they're not truth, they're my truth, again, personal development language, is I think a job is a means to an end. Whether it's, back in the early days, we were farming, we were, lots of industrial jobs. And we did those jobs so that we could put a roof over our head, so that we could have food on the table. And I think, especially being in Silicon Valley, so much of that perspective has changed. Come work for this company. We have free lunch, free dinner, a napping pod, like this and that. You'll love your coworkers, like blah, 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 blah. And it's this fantasy that your job can be this amazing thing and like stay at the company, like stay until 8 p.m. and, I have a bus ride for you and all these different perks that then our job sort of becomes more of our identity, and it becomes a really important part of how people see us and how we see other people. And I want to go back to just like at its very basic core, our jobs means to an end, right? We need a roof over our head. We need food on the table. And if leaving your job now is going to put you in jeopardy of a roof over your head and food on your table, like really think twice about why you're wanting to change, because you have a job, it's maybe a 9 to 5. You have time after work. You have time on the weekends to really pursue your passions and to actually do something in climate that you really want, as opposed to, this is a climate job, so at least I'm making that leap, right? Like a job is a job, but you could create space and free time for you to really pursue those passions. And again, even at your current job, there are opportunities to, volunteer and support an employee resource group on sustainability, or, just share content around plant-based eating and influence coworkers and the company, et cetera. So that's kind of where my head is at. And again, these are my views only. But even though I am so passionate about climate, I think people need to feel safe and take care of their basic needs and not have that trade-off of like, well, if I quit my job, like I don't know when I'm going to find a climate job in XYZ. Like Tiffany said, is it fear-driven, fantasy-driven, or intuition-driven? So thank you for sharing that.
And, Michelle, it connects back to the values assessment. Like, if you know what your highest priority is, mine this year is well-being. So there's all sorts of stuff that'll connect into well-being that I do every day. But climate only sometimes fits into that for me. And then other times it doesn't. And I feel very at ease about it most of the time because I've gotten clear what my priorities are this year, what my highest level commitment is this year, and it's taking care of myself.
Making sure your cup is full. I think that's a really wise value. So kudos to you. Now, the other thing that I'm seeing is that the job market is super brutal, and I meet a lot of women professionals who have been looking for jobs for a really long time. What advice or tools do you have for them?
Yeah, I wish we had time for me to give you 2 tools here. I'm going to just briefly explain one, and then the second one we're going to make available online for our listeners. The first one is called Conditions of Satisfaction. And for the folks that come to me wanting to change jobs or change industries, I have them go through this process of getting extremely clear about both what they want to be doing day to day, as well as what they want to, where they want to be working, like the organization that they're working for. And so this tool, Conditions of Satisfaction, gets so detailed, right? Like, to give you an example, it's things like, when you wake up, how much time do you have until you start your day? What are you doing with that time? Are you driving to work? Are you taking a public transit to work? Are you working from home? How do you distinguish the start of your workday? Like really nitty gritty detail about what your day-to-day life looks like when you are fully satisfied in your work, when you are fully satisfied in your career. And we do that because without the clarity, you're never going to get it. Are you kidding me? Who goes out in life and is like, I don't know what I want, but I'm gonna get it. Like, that's not how this works, baby. So we need to get super duper squeaky clean and clear. What do you want? And what I see is that people usually avoid getting clear because if they do, they're the only reason why they're not getting what they want. So it is a really common form of self sabotage to avoid clarity. And so we just are in our automatics, we self abandon, we apply for every job under the sun, and then we have to be with a ton of rejection because we're applying to stuff that's not aligned with us and isn't even what we're excited about, right? And then we end up really low because we're like, I keep getting rejected. I keep getting rejected. Nobody wants me. And the itty bitty shitty committee upstairs is just like, it is fired up. It is talking so much smack to you. It's making you feel terrible. So I wish that I could give you guys this full tool. It takes out a couple hours to do. I couldn't do it right now. What I can give you is kind of a cleansing tool that I use called the letting go ritual. So for my peeps who aren't yet clear, do whatever work you can to get clear. Hop on a call with me. I'm happy to do for women in climate specifically, I'll be happy to do just a set of sessions that are just this tool if you don't want to do a longer coaching engagement. But the thing that I'd give you that you can do on your own is this letting go ritual. So rejection is just extremely common in this process. I think if you're in active job applications, do this ritual once a week. Rejection is like residue and it builds up over time. And the longer you go without cleaning it, the more intense and volatile being rejected feels. So the letting go ritual is like going to the car wash for your emotional well being. And it's just a set of 9 questions that working through allows you to release whatever burdensome energy you're holding around the rejection that you're experiencing.
Got it. We will definitely make that available in the show notes. So, probably just something we should do on a monthly basis, it sounds like. Emotional car wash sounds pretty good to me. So, Tiffany, you're a busy mom, you're a busy professional, and you have lots of creative outlets. What is your relationship with climate and how do you find balance?
It's such a tough question. I pretty much always feel some guilt over what I'm not doing for climate. There's always a little there. What I can share is that I am super clear that my well being is my highest priority. So I take exquisite care of myself because I know that I can't show up as the mom that I want to be, or the partner that I want to be, or the friend I want to be, et cetera, unless I'm taking really good care of myself at this stage in life. So every year when I sit down and look at my priorities and what I need to invest more time and energy into, I really examine how the things that I'm committed to are in service of my highest priorities. So because mine is well-being, making adjustments that are environmentally friendly cleaning products to minimize how many nanoplastics are getting into my body. Like, that's an easy choice, right? Because it's so well aligned with my highest priority of my well-being. But then I also make some commitments that are kind of one and done. Like, we have an electric vehicle. I buy 95% of my clothes are all purchased secondhand. And that's like a behavioral pattern that I've trained myself into. We we put in new windows in our house for energy efficiency, right? So we do some things that are more one and done so that I feel like, okay, I've made the investment and I don't have to continue thinking about this part. Then on the flip side, there are some things that I commit to, like recycling all plastics that come through our household. And it's actually way complicated, right? It's not aligned with my well-being. Like, recycling plastic properly, I can't connect the dots. Maybe there's a listener out there who's like, Tiffany, I know how recycling plastic correctly connects to your well-being. And if you see that for me, please write me on LinkedIn. I want to know what you see for me. At the moment, though, I cannot connect those dots, but it's so important to my husband, and he's asked me to care about this. So I watch this giant bag of plastics grow in our garage every month, and it just grows and grows and grows. And it's such an eyesore, and it's such a reminder of this thing that I don't want to do, but I'm committed to because it matters to my husband. And then I go once a month and I properly recycle all of these plastics, like, the wrapping on our Costco towels and toilet paper and stuff like that, right? So I get myself in a total tizzy about it. And then I just let my guilt kick in and tell me that I got to do it and I love my husband and this matters to him. And then I just go do it, right? So there's some places where I have a lot of ease in my commitment to climate. And then there are these places where I'm like a real big mess over it, right?
But I think you are an example of someone as well that, you're a professional and you do what you can in your personal life. And, there's various ways that you can make improvements, whether it's changing the windows or buying secondhand. And I think that's really great. And if more of us know how to do that, the planet is better off. So thank you for sharing that and sharing some tips on like how the climate action actually aligns with your well-being. That's really helpful and a kind of a through line of our discussion and our conversation. So
Totally.
Tiffany, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. It's been so much fun talking about personal development and women's empowerment and climate. And we're going to do a little cleanse here because we're switching gears to our Real Talk segment of YTT. All careers, professions, they have their ups and downs. Do you have a win, a challenge, a story, etc., that is recently or is currently playing out in your personal or professional life that you'd like to put in this space and share with our listeners?
Oh, yeah. I love to. I love sharing about the hard stuff that's happening in my life. So, yeah, let me share a challenge. In both therapy and the coach that I'm working with right now, I am learning that I have an enormous, like I cannot emphasize enough, enormous emotional regulation problem. Like I had no idea that I'm living life in a dysregulated or upregulated state almost all the time because this is how I've lived my life the entire time. And I just thought it's how life goes. But I'm realizing that my tendencies to be a solutions provider for my communities, and in addition to being an extrovert and I'm an empath, this combination puts me in a unique position to overextend myself in ways that literally nobody is asking me. And I go out into the world and I'm filtering conversations and interactions for where people have something going on in their lives that I can't be with. I'm confronted by how they're choosing to do this thing. I'm confronted by this challenge that they're in. And because of my own discomfort, my own upregulation or dysregulation in my system, I end up trying to rescue these people. I get overly involved when no one asked. You know, my kid's daycare teacher told me it was her son's birthday. Don't know the kid's name. And before she said anything else, I said, I'll bake him a cake for his birthday. And I woke up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning to bake a kid a birthday cake when I don't even know the kid. How wacky is that? And it's because I could not be with her not having a plan for her son's birthday. And I was like, I need to fix this. I need to fix this. And how hijacked I am emotionally into being a solution person. My eyes have just been opened in a way that, I can see how I got here, but I didn't realize I was here until very recently. So a challenge that I'm in is doing a lot more body work just to learn how to be with that discomfort and not overstep. Like I give so much of myself away in places that are not aligned with my values. They are not aligned with my highest commitment. And so I really feel like I'm in this chapter of stepping into taking my power back and my time and my energy back to pour it into myself. And it's confronting. I mean, I'm glad I'm doing it, but it's really confronting for me.
It's almost like setting boundaries with yourself.
Totally. I have disordered boundaries is what we call it. That's the therapeutic term to it for it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I have totally disordered boundaries. Like, I can't respect other people's boundaries. Somebody could say, oh, I got the door. And I'm like, you're holding too much stuff. I'm not okay with you getting the door. I cannot respect your boundary. I will get the door for you, right? So yeah, it's like both a lack of ability to respect other people's boundaries, but also not having good boundaries for myself. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's such a hard line to draw because knowing you for so long, you're just a kind and generous person and you like to help. And I think helping people gives you a lot of gratification and it's almost addicting, right? Like when people appreciate. So like, I don't want that part of you to go away, like personally for me.
Don't worry. This is an adjustment. It's just me learning how to not, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know how to opt out of this. It's too automatic for me. So I need to learn a skill set that allows me to say, oh, not this time.
Mm-hmm.
And with you and with other people in my life who I adore, who I love, who I'm invested in, I get to keep doing all of that. But for people whose name I don't even know, maybe I shouldn't.
Fair and few. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for sharing your insights with our listeners. We'll have more information around Tiffany in our show notes. You're welcome to connect with her on LinkedIn and follow her very interesting and colorful posts. Stay tuned for our next episode in season 1. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Head over to www.womenandclimate.co to learn more about how to join and support our free community. And be sure to subscribe to Yellow Table Talk wherever you get your podcasts. Stay tuned for the next episode.